Hi, this is Glenn Bator and welcome to Bator International. Today we're going to take a look at this 1924 BSA, it's a Model L 500cc single. We just got this bike in a few weeks ago and I put it up on the website, and of course I am getting some interest. The one gentleman that is showing the most interest says, "I'd like to hear it run." So we're going to go ahead and go through the bike, check her out, fire her up, and do a little running video on it. So stand by. We'll go ahead and take a look at what we need to do to get this thing going. One of the interesting things about this bike is it's a single family owned bike for pretty much all of its life. I bought it out of Newfoundland, and the bike is all original paint from what I can tell. The gentleman that I bought it from, he had a museum up there, and he acquired it from the family that had it since new. And what you don't see on a lot of these old bikes is how complete and unmolested this motorcycle is. I mean, the early BSAs and a lot of the British bikes, they had a lot of little dainty things on them, and a lot of little push-me, pull-yous, items that could be broken, could be snapped off very easily, and so on. And like, take a look at this here. This is a fuel line here that actually dumps into the primer cup on top of the head. And I mean, how cool is that? And it's still there. All of the cables look to be all original, and all of the controls work very nice, very smooth. And then your regulator for your oil, sight glass and everything, it's all there. All these little cool little triggers and everything on it. It's just a very, very complete bike. And even all of the oilers still have their caps on them. And it's very, very impressive. And one of the things I will do is I'm going to remove these very, very nicely made trunks, or saddlebags, I guess you can call them. But they're very nice, but they just do not fit the look of the bike. So they will sell along with the bike, but they just don't fit the look. And then also when I'm out test riding, I want them off the bike anyway. So we're going to go ahead and check the gas tank to see if there's any issues within there. We're going to go ahead and pull the spark plug, check for spark, check the carburetor, probably rebuild it, and then pull all the fluids out of the engine and gearbox. So it shouldn't take much to get her going, but again, you just have to go through all the different steps to bring these old girls out of the mothballs. So let's go ahead and get started and see how long it's going to take to get her going. To remove the saddlebags is very, very simple. All I do is just go ahead and pull these little straps here, and they'll come off very easily. And then we'll go ahead and take a look inside of the gas tank to see what's going on in there. This also has the, I don't know if you noticed, but it has the carbide generator, which basically powers the headlight and tail light. All of the hoses are still there. And basically, if you're not familiar with this, what happens is you go ahead and take carbide pellets and fill up this bottom cup. And then the top, you put water in here. Then you open up the valve, and that regulates the amount of drip that goes into the carbide. And when the water hits the carbide, it creates an acetylene gas, or acetylene gas, depending on what part of the country you're from. And it goes up through these little tubes, go to the headlight, pop it open, take your match, light up the little wick right there, little porcelain wick. You go ahead and shut your headlight, and you're good to go. Also, the bike has, well, what can I say? These are the brake bands, or the brake drums, or brake rings. And basically it's a piece of what I'll call like a hard rubber that was used for the brake itself. And when you hit the lever up on the handlebar, this is what you get. That's all of your braking. pretty crude, but obviously they work to a point. So let's go ahead and get these off, and we'll go ahead and go to the next step. Okay, we've got the drain plug pulled. That's a tongue twister. And what's coming out looks relatively clean, relatively thick. I'm probably guessing at least 75 weight, which gives us a good indication on what type of oil to put into the oil tank. And I also pulled the gas cap down or off, and I also pulled the oil plug up in the tank here, and it actually looks pretty darn good. No rust, thank God. And looks like they may even have put some oil in the actual gas tank to keep it preserved. So again, we'll have to clean that out just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and pull the gearbox oil, and the bike's already looking better now that we've pulled the rear saddlebags off. So again, we'll go ahead and get the gearbox oil drained and pull the spark plug and kick her through. Okay. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and pull the chain case cover off that goes to the magneto and double check the slack on that, and also see if it should be chain driven, but it could be gear driven, but I do not think so. And I also pulled the plug for the gearbox, and I got about a drip out of it, so it either leaked out or it was removed, or a lot of times back in the day they would pack these things with grease because they were just not oil tight. So we'll go ahead and put some gear oil in that, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this carburetor. I tried to pull the cap off the top of the bowl, and it's not coming, and also the tickler is froze. So I'm going to pull this carburetor off and go ahead and put it in the carb dip and clean her out. So, okay, we're pulling the last nut and washer off this side cover, so let's take a look inside. Wow, very pleased. Gears are in excellent condition, chain looks nice, tension is about right. So all I'm going to do is clean up the inside of that case, grease it up because it doesn't get any oiling, and go ahead and put the cover back on. So very happy about that. So now on to the carburetor. All right, I got everything else loose on the carburetor, just getting a little pinch clamp there. Slide is a little dirty, but what do you expect for, let me see, about 98 years, I think, or 96 years old. Not bad. Let's go over to the other side. Okay, fuel line, let's see what's in it. Oops. Well, at least it's not water. Very, very foul gas with oil mix in it. So let's go over to the other side now and slide the carburetor off. And it's a little bit stiff, but she's coming. There we have it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and break this down, put it in the carb dip, get her all cleaned up, and continue on the quest. Okay, so here's a question for you all. Being that this bike is all original paint, and it has a certain patina to it, do I go ahead and put this carburetor in the carb dip and clean up the whole exterior of it, or do I just pull it down, clean out the jets, and put it back together? Well, let's go ahead and just pull it down, clean up the jets, put it back together, and see if that'll take care of it. If not, then we'll go ahead and have to go ahead and put her in the carb dip. So let's go ahead and tear her down, and I'll also check out the fuel line, make sure it's clear, and then we'll check out the gas tanks. Now that we have the carburetor removed from the engine, I went ahead and took a pair of channel locks and very gingerly tried to remove the top of the float. Needless to say, it stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of heat, and then we're going to go ahead and try it again. So let's see what we can do here to get this off. And again, being that we don't know what type of fuel is in the bowl, you don't want to use too much heat. Just enough to expand the brass bowl itself and get it broke loose from the actual top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this down. And I'm going to need two hands to see if I can get this cap off, so bear with me. I'll come right back. All right, that worked. I put a towel around it, and I used the channel locks again, and it was enough to get her loose. So let's see what we have in there. It's still a little bit warm too, so that's why I'm using the rag here. A little warm. And there's our float. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get this removed. It's a little clip that you have to unclip there, pull the float up, and then we'll go ahead and clean out the all the gunk, and then we'll go ahead and remove the actual bowl away from the body and clean up all the different jets and get her ready to reinstall. Well, this is the breakdown of Mr. Amel carburetor 1924. You can see it's very simple, and it doesn't vary much from the later carburetors that Amel put out. Very, very simple carburetor. There is still a few little jets in the carb itself that I'm going to leave until I soak it for the first time. And then once I get the rest of this sludge and slime out of the way, I'll go ahead and see if I can get those removed, and I may have to go ahead and give it a second dipping. But again, very, very simple. You can see the goo in the bottom of the bowl here. The float is still in good shape, and the little velocity stack and the cap with the tickler, which the tickler is, I just freed it, so there we have it. Mr. Tickler is now free. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and throw her in the dip, and I'll have to pull it out tomorrow to put her back together. Okay, we're on to day 2 of the bringing the BSA out of the mothballs, and I went ahead and got the carburetor all cleaned out. And for a carb that's almost 100 years old, not in bad shape. A lot of little drill orifices there. I made sure I cleaned all those. And again, really good shape for as old as it is. So we'll go ahead and reassemble this, and then we're going to go on to filling up the gearbox with fluid, see what kind of leaks we get out of that. And I also cleaned out the timing chain, and we'll go ahead and grease that up and put it back on. Then I think I'll go ahead and pull the primary cover off as well to see what's going on in there. So again, onward and upward, here we go. You may be thinking this is my mad professor look, but basically this is my coronavirus haircut and or lack thereof. So we went ahead and reinstalled the carburetor. I've got the bowl loose here until I line up the fuel line on the other side. But I went ahead and I'm starting to put a little bit of juice through the gas tank. The gas tank and the oil tank, basically the front portion of the tank is oil, and it goes down through this line to your engine. And the back side of the gas tank obviously is the fuel. So I just dumped in some Coleman fuel into the gas tank, as you can see here. And I'm going to do the same for the oil. I went ahead and disconnected the lines so no fuel goes down into the engine. And it really wouldn't hurt if it did. You just have to pop your drain plug and go ahead and let it run out. So we're going to go ahead and flush out the tank and get her ready. Before I put the Coleman in, I looked down into the tank, and it was basically just an oily residue, no rust, so I'm in good shape there. So we'll get that done and move on to the other components. Okay, while we watch the gas trickle out of the gas tank, we're going to go ahead and try to button up the right-hand side of the engine. We're going to throw some 80-90 weight into the gearbox. I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit of chain lube for the timing chain, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw some 40 weight inside of the oil tank in the top front section there. So that'll get us buttoned up there. And I'll also go ahead and check our clearance on the valves. And that'd be pretty much it for the right side. And then we'll go over to the left side, maybe pull the primary cover, and we went ahead and cleaned the points, so that's ready to go. So we're getting close. Okay, we have everything wrapped up on the bike, so we're going to go ahead and lower the ramp and take her outside and give her a kick and see if she's going to fly. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and just leave the points set where they're at. I did clean them. I'm going to leave the valves where they're at. Again, hopefully the guy that last worked on this maybe 50 years ago or so knew more about the bike than I. So we'll go ahead and just fire it up, and if it seems like it's making a little bit too much noise, then we'll go ahead and adjust up the valves and so on. So I'm putting a new plug in it, and I got gas and oil in her, so we should be ready to go. So let's take her on outside and give her a kick. Okay, here's our first attempt at firing up this old girl. Let's see what happens. Sounds beautiful. No, barely any smoke, but you got to expect some smoke after sitting for so long. There's the smoke. Engine's very quiet. Obviously had some residue from sitting for so long. Rings may be gummed up as well. But again, this engine sounds really tight. Well, I'm really happy. Okay, so next step, let's take her out on the road. Well, there you have it. First time out in probably 50, 60 years, I'm guessing. Ran out very nicely. We blew out a lot of cobwebs, of course. We do have a little bit of an issue with the carburetor, but nothing big. Clutch feels good. Gearbox feels good. For an old original paint bike, she's in very, very nice shape. A little bit of fine tuning here and there, and she'll be a terrific and very dependable bike to ride. Well, that's it for this bike. I hope you enjoyed what you've viewed through getting the bike out of the mothballs and get her running. And if you like what we're doing here, please hit the thumbs up and hit the like and all the rest of that good stuff. And also check out all the rest of our videos up on YouTube. We have about 500 of them. And again, make sure you check out our website, www.batorinternational.com, or you can call me direct at 805-798-1802.